Come with me today as I sit down with Ethiopian-American recording artist Berhana at the original Tomoka Coffee in Piazza. So I got to hear firsthand about Berhana's nostalgic love for Tomoka coffee and how his return to Ethiopia and family upbringing opened him up to the world of Ethio jazz, a huge influence that has shaped his unique sound and style, a blend of pop and R&B with hints of electronica.
So is this like a favorite location for you?
This is like, yeah, one of my favorite locations.
I noticed you like to tap into like these classic, authentic spots.
Yeah, there's
What's
something
that
maybe it's because I came here pretty late, and my mom and family, like, they have all their memories here. This is like one of the places that they talk about. The other Tomoka as well, like it's at that old train station. That's where my mom would always, like, from Hara, she would come to boarding school.
Travel into
Yeah,
that spot.
and then she'd go, and like the first time we went, she just started crying because all these memories start flooding back. And I think there's something about being in these places that make me feel like I was there, or like I got to experience it with them, you know?
That's one thing about Ethiopia. You know, a lot of these places are still like frozen in time. So you can tap into this nostalgia that you wouldn't get other places.
I feel like the newer places are cool too. Like, I like seeing innovation and where things are headed, but for me, it's like, this is what it's all about.
So what is that feeling? Like, tell me a little bit more about this. Is it the Tizata? The nostalgia?
I was just about to say nostalgia, yeah. Definitely nostalgia. It's definitely, I get to be a part of like the golden, what people would say like, oh, even music, right? It's like, I love listening to stuff that came from the 70s, 60s.
Tell me about your self-titled EP to where we are now with you musically. So now you just released your new album, I'm In, right? Or is it Berhana is the...
I'm In is
your self-titled EP. And then now we're a Nomad's Dream. Like, walk me through this evolution, musically, creatively.
I think the first EP, Berhana, was my very first thing, you know? In a real sense, it's not like I'd made a bunch of projects, put them out, and I didn't, you know, I just didn't see much from it, or I kept it to myself. It was the first thing I made.
Well, you did contribute on Kingdom.
Whoa, yeah, Kingdom was a song that I made right before the EP.
Right, so that was your first time kind of
Crazy.
expressing.
Nobody's brought up that
in
song.
any of the interviews?
No, that's
exclusive.
That's crazy. That was my first song I put under my name. A friend was putting out an EP. He was like, "Oh, I heard you sing and play keys. You want to get on this?
Yeah.
You want to get on this project?" I was like, "All right, cool."
But that was your first time kind of claiming this thing.
Yeah, it was. But it was like, oh, I was doing it for someone else, and I was like, oh, what if I made my own thing? What would that sound like? And then I made this song called Janet from my first EP. I was creating from this very unconscious state of just like, yeah, like whatever, let's just see what happens, which was looking back on it now, it's like such a beautiful, freeing time.
Hey, Mrs. Hubert, you think that they should hang with us? Can't feel my music, we used to dance so the lonely smoke from my mouth.
My next album was called Han, years later, which was another play on my name, Berhana. But I wanted to create this character, put him in a completely different world, and see where that would lead me.
It's called to let you know I'm coming. Riding around Spain in California.
So who are you today? And tell us about the Nomad's Dream.
Today I'm in Berhana, really trying to honestly be as authentic as I possibly can in art and in like all aspects of life. I think with this album in particular, it was a journey of acceptance.
Self-acceptance?
Self-acceptance and acceptance of life, like what it is that life has to offer, the good, the bad, death, life, like, you know, death of like loved ones. Like, how can you feel thankful for losing someone you love, right? But I feel like I've been working towards this thing, just appreciating being able to be a part of anything.
No soft key, shoulda never let it build her hopes off me, but it's no white flag, think I could still get it back. Wait, can you help out my class, bitch? I'm gone off the ghost.
How they live in me now, I get to give that to the next generation, you know? And I feel like the journey of the album started from this very unconscious state as a boy, and then led to that place of acceptance. Something, you know, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily there, but it's what I'm working towards. You know?
So tell me a little bit about your inspirations, as musically speaking.
I think musically with this album, like I always loved NERD growing up. The American side of me growing up, like that was one of my favorite bands, and also just like production style, and merged their own worlds, you know, of like funk and soul, but also hard drums and rock, and I love that fusion of sounds, right? And so there was that aspect, but there was also this aspect of like Ethio jazz, and also just like that music from the 60s and 70s that weren't necessarily jazz, that felt like people were combining these worlds of like, oh, what does Elvis sound like mixed with, you know, traditional like Ethiopian scales? What about, like, you have Mulatto who's putting like Latin, jazz, all of these things together, right? Fusion still. So it's like, oh, how can I blend my own fusion of like the things that make me, you know?
So I think, I'm not sure which trip it was, because you've been here now 4 times back to Ethiopia. Which trip was it that you got to actually sit down with Mulatu Astate?
Sat down with him like twice, the first 2 trips.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so put us on game. Like, what were you guys talking about?
The first time, I wasn't even talking. He was talking just about the history of music in this country, what this country has meant to music. And the second time, it was more exchanging ideas and him telling me stories of like touring, what it was like back in his heyday at African Jazz Village, which was cool, a very different conversation, but also, yeah, just really cool to sit down with someone you look up to that much and be able to be so candid.
Still single on Valentine's Day? We got you. Cry it out on our pillow.
So after we got our macchiato fix, Berhana took me to a place that means so much to him, Abdi's Vintage Shop in Piazza. A collection of antiques, literature, and legendary vinyls spanning across Ethiopian music genres. It was so great seeing him light up as he talked about his first sold-out concert right here in Addis Ababa. We also talked and reflected on his 1.5-year-long journey to bring Amen, the nomad's dream, to life, and the many full-circle moments that Ethiopia has inspired.
Is there any particular record company that you follow?
Record company? I mean, not really. I mean, Amha clearly went crazy. Yeah, Kaifa went crazy. I feel like, yeah, it's like 3 from back then. That or so, you know?
Do you come every time you're in town?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Always take something back?
Always take something back if I can. Or if not, you know, I just look around, see what pops out. I feel like he has different things every time you come in.
So the last time you were in town, when you were presenting the visual for the Nomad's Dream, tell me a little bit about that project. Like, who was involved? What was the process? Yeah,
it was it was a cool thing. I feel like we got, the year before we shot the Nomad's Dream, I came here and I got to work with just a bunch of different artists. We got to create this character. Gurma Berta, Antena Nida, Guled Ahmed. We all went to Harar together, which is where my family's from. We kind of like built this character from the ground up. And then when I went back to the States, I got to work with 2 of my closest collaborators, Julia Bayless and Sam Guest. And we got to take that and then make this film in New York, but still very much inspired by like everything that I experienced here. And you know, they got to also come over and we got to really like build it together, which was so special, because it felt like, again, that blend, you know, that foot in both worlds. And I'd say the whole process took probably from conception to completion like a year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah.
So staying kind of like now that we're like in this post-COVID world, you know, people are kind of working from home, you're kind of here, there, you're collaborating with people in different kinds of cities all over the world. Tell me a little bit about like that process. There's no more kind of like spaces of creation or like hubs, if you will.
Yeah.
It's kind of like wherever the work is, I think.
Yeah, I think it's in just who the people are, you know what I mean? I feel like when you meet people that you really connect with, align with, and can be like vulnerable with in terms of, because that's just what creativity is. I feel like it's a very vulnerable process.
Yeah.
And when you find that, it's easy. It doesn't feel like work. And I've been lucky, you know, I think that's part of it too.
Speak a little bit about like the local creative scene, like what has surprised you, what has impressed you?
I think it's really cool to see that people don't really see boundaries as much as, even like coming here in 2019, coming back in 2023, it felt like, oh yeah, people are really like open to trying new things and being daring. The younger generation really just wants to create from that really free place.
Yeah.
I think that surprised me in the best of ways.
So you recently sold out your show here for the Nomad Stream.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that experience. What were your feelings going into it, and then after kind of you sold out and you performed? What were you tapped into?
It was cool. It was the first time I ever performed the music from the album.
Live, yeah.
Wow. And I didn't have much expectations for it. I was excited, but I didn't know really what to expect. But to see people, you know, pack it out, sing all the words to songs I had never performed before that's always a surreal experience. I'm very grateful to be able to do what I do. I feel like that's the feeling I felt like even in the middle of the show, like wow.
Yeah, that reception. So tell me more about that. Like, how many live performances do you do? Are you comfortable on stage? Like, how are you as a performer?
Yeah, I'm comfortable on stage. When you first finish a project and it's your first time performing those songs, it's always a very exciting feeling. It's like,
nervous and excited.
Yeah,
what's the reception?
Like, it's kind of like doing it all for the first time again, which is nice. I feel like it's fun to be a little nervous. It's nice to have that adrenaline. But all in all, I'm pretty comfortable on stage.
Because I mean, like, we know you're also a writer. When you do kind of your craft as a writer, you don't really get the, instant feeling of what the audience is feeling.
Yeah.
So that call and response, or that
Definitely.
It's not instant.
You kind of work in a
music,
cave.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you kind of put it out there, and then you kind of wait for it to reverberate back.
For sure. And it always surprises me when it does reverberate.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, but this one is like instantaneous.
Yeah.
Right there with the crowd, you're connecting, you're feeling it. So what do you feel between the two? Which one do you prefer?
I think I prefer being in the cave. I think I prefer like the creating and being able to, because I think that's exciting in its own way and so fulfilling in its own way, but I like both, you know what I mean?
And then there was a third artistry that you were mentioning you also do. What was it?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, so you write, you're a singer-songwriter, and filmmaker. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
I think film and TV has always been, that's what I always wanted to do, honestly, even before music. Music kind of happened in a really beautiful and authentic way. My goal was always to be a filmmaker, creating stories for people to watch on screen. And I feel like even now it's like, it's all coming to that point of like, okay, I'm finding a way to make sure I'm doing both things and exercising that muscle.
So when are you exercising the muscle again? What's the next project for film?
Oh, I'm not going to say that.
Oh, okay, there's nothing in the works?
No. I feel like there's always things in the works, but
Seeds are
surprises
being
are better than
yeah.
me telling you the beginnings of something. You know what I mean?
So, but some seeds are being planted, things
For
are
sure,
getting cooked up.
always.
Okay.
Hi, this is Berhana and you're watching DinkTv.